Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Jason Rothman. As always, I'm joined by the great Chris Schaefer. Chris, how's it going today?
Jason, I'm freaking great. I'm glad to be here. So
Good. That's
happy to
what I
be
like
here.
to hear. That's what I
Yeah,
like to
I'm
see.
pumped. This
Yeah.
is a super special episode, and we don't do stuff like this very often. Where we just Jason, we just like you used to say many years ago, we get naked on the internet and just
Yeah,
share all the good stuff.
we do. Yeah. And there's a lot of good stuff with responsive search ads, but slow down. I
Oh,
want to hear about how was your weekend? Did you have a good
uh,
weekend? We record this earlier in the week. How's Chris doing?
I'm nothing to report. I mean,
Good.
just a
Great
normal
weekend?
weekend. Yeah,
Good.
normal weekend.
All right, good. Well, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're doing great, excellent, fantastic,
Yeah, absolutely.
amazing.
Full of
And
energy.
today we're going to be talking about responsive search ads. Our sponsor, Opteo, has come out with a responsive search ad writer, a tool to help you create responsive search ads. Chris is going to tell you a little bit about that during the Opteo reads during the episode. And then at the very end of the episode, make sure you check out the YouTube video because Chris is going to be doing a demo of Opteo's responsive search ad writer tool.
Hmm.
And we'll have that at the end of the episode for you. And make sure you check out YouTube. So, with that spirit of the episode, we're going to be talking about responsive search ads today. We're just going to be covering, kind of break it down in two parts, the basics and then some advanced topics. And then we'll just kind of be asking each other how we think about responsive search ads these days. So that's what we're doing today, episode 350. Thank you, everyone, for being here and helping us continue to grow the show. Chris is going to, why don't you tell us about Opteo and a little bit about this RSA writer tool, and then we will get into the episode.
Yeah, I tell you guys every week about how Opteo can save you time. Well, you want proof of how Opteo can save your time? Stick around for the demo at the end. Be sure and watch that. If you'd like to see a visual, that's what I recommend because you get to see this tool live. And the short answer is this: this tool will help you get it done faster. It helps you with creativity, and it also helps you to add an additional aspect of checking your metrics in a very streamlined way. It's a wonderful system, very unique, nothing like there is on the market anywhere else. Stuff that is not available in the Google Ads UI. So amazing stuff. Opteo.com/PSP to try this tool for 8 weeks for free, 2 months for free. That's Opteo, Opteo.com/PSP.
Thanks, Chris, and everyone. Definitely check out the description because we'll have a link so you can get your free trial and then try out this RSA tool. Again, Chris is going to demo it, the writing tool, at the end of the episode. So, Chris, let's start off with responsive search ads, the basics. Why don't you? We have some information here from Google. I'll kind of read it, and then I want to hear kind of how you're thinking about responsive search ads these days. But for anybody who kind of isn't super familiar with them, the way Google kind of talks about them is responsive search ads let you create an ad that adapts to show more relevant messages to your customers. Here's the key: enter multiple headlines and descriptions when creating responsive search ads. And over time, Google Ads automatically tests different combinations and learns which combinations perform best. And I would add in there myself, perform best for different searches and different users. By adapting your ads content to more closely match potential customer search terms, responsive search ads may improve your campaign's performance.
Yeah.
So, Chris, how are you thinking about responsive search ads these days?
Well, as you know, Jason, I'm not thinking about responsive search ads like I used to think of ads. I mean, that question is very specific because in the old days, we would think about ads in a way of, well, what can I do to best optimize my campaign? That's not the way I think about. I think about how can I fuel this machine? How can I fuel this system to best provide the output, the response, the performance that I want? Because I can't open up the hood on this tool and go in and change how it works. There is no way to do that. I can only input to the information, review what comes out, and maybe make some adjustments, based on what I see. But that's the way I think of it now. That's the way I think about responsive search ads. I think about it as not so much of a tool anymore, but an engine that runs based on the content that I put in front of it.
Yeah, so we can put a lot more copy than we could into the ad than we could with the expanded text ads. More headlines, more descriptions, more characters, and then Google kind of chooses the combinations and tests things out over time. And I think about it in a similar way. Like I think about it like training the system. We're trying to throw a lot at the system, at the machine, and tell it, hey, here's ad copy I want to run. Here's me using some of the keywords, and try all this stuff out. And then basically I'm going to hand over the keys and I'm going to say, please, I'm not even saying it. Basically they're saying we're going to do it
Yeah.
for you to a large extent based on what you've given us. So I think like a big mistake is trying to over optimize the responsive search ads, because that's not your job. Your job is to feed headlines, feed descriptions, and give the system something to work with, give it a lot to work with, and give it relevant stuff to work with and unique stuff. But it's the system's job to optimize. And why is it the system's job? It's like you said, Chris, we can't open up the hood. Like what searches you show on, that is influenced by your responsive ads these days, to some extent. And then who your ads show to and at what times they show, that's changing all the time. And so Google can kind of optimize the responsive search ad to the searches and to the users. And so I wrote down the word balance, Chris. It's a balance of like not forgetting the responsive search ads, because once you make one, they're there. And it's easy to kind of forget them because you don't see them. The public sees them. At the same time, don't forget about them, but like don't over optimize. Maybe a second ad, trying something new, but like I just over optimizing is, I think, a mistake. So that's what they are. Let me know if you agree with this, Chris. The power of one great responsive search ad is 10 times better than 10 mediocre responsive search ads. One responsive search ad that's amazing and has everything the system needs is better than 3 ads, better than 4 ads, better than 10 ads. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And the part that hurts is I don't always know why, but I know that the end result is better. I can't see why it's performing, but I know when I see it. When I see it and I see better click-through rates, I see possibly a better conversion rate. Whenever I see better ad strength, that tends to lead towards a better impression share, a better positioning, better click-through, better cost per click, better quality score. The benefits, the list of benefits are really long of what you can, what you get out of a quality responsive search ad. And in the opposite vein, the list of damage that you do to your account with poorly written responsive search ads is going to be just as long. You can't have so much positive output from a well-constructed responsive search ad without having the detriment of a poorly done ad. And the thing is, people don't know what they don't know. I was looking at an account the other day, running tremendously well, and the shock that I saw whenever I opened up the ad tab and saw that they had 3 headlines and one of them was pinned, and that was it. They had they had an absolute minimum. They had 3 headlines, 2 descriptions, and a final URL, and that was it. And I recoiled in horror. I'm like, do you know how much better things could be if we gave the system more to work with?
No, they don't know how much better things could be. I want to preview. we're going to get into this further later in the episode, but it's difficult to talk about responsive search ads without just kind of getting to the point. And so, like, the mystery of responsive search ads to me is that when you have a good responsive search ad, like earlier you said, you'll just know it when you see it. Like, you just have a feel for it at this point. The mystery of them, or the interesting thing about them, is when you have a great responsive search ad, it unlocks the magic of Google Ads, and basically you show on more searches. And because you show on more searches, you get more leads and you get more business from your campaign. And if you're showing up, we always say the wider you go, the better. So we talk about schedule, we talk about location, because you can pull down your cost per click and still show up as much as you want to. I think when a responsive search ad works great, they show you on more searches. We'll talk later in the episode a little more about why, but they show you on more searches. Because of that, you can get a lower cost per click, and you can get either more leads or more leads and a lower cost per lead. And it just kind of cracks open the account or the campaign. Is this ringing a bell, Chris, with like when you say you'll just know it when you see it? Is it about the impressions? Is it about getting more impressions, more conversions? Is that what you're seeing when you say a responsive search ad is working great? You'll just know it when you see it. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't think I've ever done a test where I have set, because nobody's willing to pay the money for something like this, but I would imagine, someone in an imaginary system where they have infinite money and they set up an account where they're running with absolute crap responsive search ads, minimum, very bad writing, just ad strength poor all the way through. Then they set up another account with a different product, different company, so that two separate entities. And this one has phenomenally phenomenally written responsive search ads, and same keywords, same everything else. I mean, I don't know why. Google tells us why, but we can't see it happening. But there is going to be better performance, better everything with that better written responsive search ad.
I think there's going to be better performance, and I think there's going to be, the key thing is there's going to be more impressions, and there's going to be more conversions. I've just seen it too many times at this point, and along with some of the language from Google that we'll see here later in the episode. But that's kind of the mystery of responsive search ads. And what makes it mysterious, Chris, is when we open this segment here about the mystery of responsive search ads, you were saying someone who has a bad responsive search ad, unless they look at that poor score on the ad strength, they may not see that they have a poor responsive search ad, because they might have a cost per lead they like.
Yeah.
They might have a click-through rate they like. They might be thinking in 2018 expanded text ads terms and be going, oh, I judge ads by click-through rate, not by how many more incremental impressions that I get, which is another way to judge them now with responsive search ads. And they won't know what they're missing because they don't have a great ad, and they're missing those borderline search terms that we don't even see. They're missing those people that we wouldn't think they're searching a good search, but they're actually the perfect person for our what we're offering, and they'll become a conversion, and Google knows that. They're missing that incremental traffic, and they won't know it based on the traditional metrics. So that's kind of the mysterious thing about responsive search ads and what makes them so special. Let's take it back to kind of the basics here, Chris, and let's just talk about headlines. And when I talk about responsive search ads, I'm going to say the most important part of them are what you do with your headlines. Are you going to agree with that?
100%. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, it's important. So, so if it's so important, and why, is because good responsive ad headlines lead to a good score, a good click-through rate, more incremental impressions, everything we just talked about. So they are, to me, the most important thing. But what do you do with them then? Like, how do you create your responsive ad headlines?
So there was something really important that you coined, or didn't coin, you read at the very top of the show, was you mentioned it's going to closely match to potential customers' search terms. Okay, so what it's saying there is very different than if they would have said keywords. So
Yeah, that's right.
we could replace the word search terms by intent. So we could read that same sentence in this way. Your ads content is going to match more closely to potential customers' intent, what they're actually looking for, what they're interested in. And as a marketer, you should reinterpret that whole search term intent to read level of the funnel. You should, when you write a responsive ad headline, you should write your ads to the kind of people that you're trying to reach out to. If you're running a campaign that's primarily focused on people who are just stepping into possibly wanting a new roof on their house, people who are looking for, a dentist in their area, people who are researching, what medication or what doctor or something like that they should think. This is the beginning of the funnel. This is the kind of thing where you are going to invite them to learn about something. Now, if someone's doing very specific searches, longer tail, full context types of searches, speak on that level. So that's how I write responsive ad headlines that work. I speak to the intention of the searcher, whether you want to call that the search term, that I want. I'm going to speak to the people that I want to respond to my ad. And that means, on the other hand, people that I don't want to respond don't click on the ad. So that might mean I put a price point to keep people out that are going to say, "Oh, I don't want to click on that. I don't want to spend $500 on a drone. I'm looking for a cheap birthday toy for $50."
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, like, we don't have documentation on it today. I didn't find it, but I've seen it in the past where they literally have said something to the effect of, like, the search terms you show up on from your keywords will be influenced to some extent by the ad copy you put in your responsive search ads. Yeah. Like, it's just always a mind-blowing thing to me. So that's why those headlines are so important. So, Chris, I do the same thing. I think past the keyword and I go to the search term that I want, and not just the search term, but the person doing, who knows what search term, but the person I want. And I think to both those things that are past the keyword, and I write headlines to talk to them and try to influence the system to show me to those people, and then to try to influence those people to see my ad when it's listed there with everything else on the search results page. But I also still use keywords in my headlines on at least some of my headlines.
Yes.
And I do that so I can get a good ad strength, which, again, we'll talk about ad strength later in the episode. But the point is, I think past the keywords, I think about the search terms. I also think about the person doing the search, just like you. I also use keywords, though, to balance that, like making ads for the person and making ads for the machine. Now I'm making ads for the machine, making headlines for the machine, trying to get the machine to show me to the right person with the right search terms. But I'm also thinking about the old school machine of, like, ads matching the keyword, so I get a good quality score, a good ad strength score, and it knows that my ads are relevant right from the start.
Yeah.
I don't do it with every headline. I do it with a handful of them, but I do it on every responsive search ad. Are you also still doing the old school use keywords in your ad headline kind of thing that I'm doing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
it's a balance.
The creativity required now is so much heavier than what was required years ago. Years ago, you could come up with one or two creative ideas, and the third headline could just be a throwaway. Now you come up with a couple creative ideas. Now change your tone, change the way that you say it, change the order, change a lot of things about how you come up with those. And you don't just put the keyword in over and over again, because you need to write headlines that could potentially be shown all together. These, 3 headlines could be shown, and you're basically just repeating the same thing over and over again. You need to try saying it in a different way. And I think that's incredibly important, that you don't just say the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. So within that mix, I also use headlines I use them for the keywords we talked about just now. I use them for what we talked about earlier, the search terms and the person.
Yeah.
But I also use like calls to action. That's another usage of headlines. And when you think about calls to action, call now for a free quote, something like that, whatever. It takes a level of trust with responsive search ads to trust the machine to
Yeah.
not put call now for a free quote right next to your other call to action, call today to schedule. Some people get scared. Well, what if headline 1 is call now for a free quote and headline 2 is call now to schedule, and the ad doesn't seem relevant to the search at all? We'll talk about pinning in a second, but doesn't it take that level of trust to just kind of trust the system? Go, no, I have 2 calls to action. I want to see how they do, the different ones do. I'm going to trust the system that A, they're not going to be headline number 1s probably, and B, they're not going to be 1 and 2 back to back to each other, or 3 even in the same ad together.
Yeah.
I have engaged that level of trust with Google, and I've gotten to a point where I've seen the greatness of responsive search ads and the incremental impressions you can get. I trust the system. Do you trust the system, Chris?
I have to. Yeah.
You have to. That's a great answer. That's a great answer. Yeah. That is a great answer.
I'll tell you what I've realized, and the responsive search ads have forced me to realize, is that people aren't reading this like it's a text from their crush. They're not poring over every word. What they're doing is they're glancing through, and their mind is kind of seeing the words, and they see a couple things, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, and then they click it. This is a insta response kind of thing. So when I see Google having headlines that are repetitive, and I'm like, what in the world? That doesn't sound good, or that's very repetitive. That seems kind of dry, but yet it could be the most popular headline that Google shows. And the fact is, I have to lay aside my creative thoughts and think, what's going to get the clicks. And sometimes, people just glancing through the ads headlines and clicking on it is all I really need. There's not a whole lot of creativity juice that I might need.
Yeah, and I just trust Google to, if you feed it the right mix of headlines, it'll do well with it. Couple more things I think about with responsive search ads, Chris. One is a great tip directly from Google. I had not seen this before. I just saw it today. Get that smirk off your face, Chris, and let me run the show. I know what you're thinking. Okay,
right.
Get that smirk off your face.
Sorry.
Before I slap you. Knock those fake teeth out.
Oh, no.
All right. This is a great tip directly from Google, Chris. I had never seen this before until today. But I think it's a great way to kick off the ad headline process and get in that mindset of putting together everything. Keywords, unique stuff, calls to action, search terms, thinking about the user. Google says, try writing the first 3 headlines as if they'll appear together in your ad. What I like about that is it can help you build some trust and it'll loosen you up a little. You'll be like, okay, I've done these 3 headlines together. I'm telling Google, this is the way I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And Google's saying, yeah, we want to know how you're thinking. We think the same way. Like 3 headlines go together. They're not all calls to action. They're not all unique. They're not all keyword stuff. So throw 3 of them in there and we'll figure out how to mix them. So I like that little tip from Google. And then how about this one, Chris? And I'm curious about how unique you'll get on your headlines. But I wrote down be extremely unique. And it's easy to forget this sometimes because you have those pressure points in the responsive ad builder to say, hey, use headlines. But they also tell you that use keywords, but they also tell you be unique. And when I mean unique, Chris, I mean like instead of like just call now today for a quote, call now to talk to Jennifer for a quote, or call now to schedule with Jennifer, or something like that. Throwing something crazy unique out there.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll work. Like people will call in and go, and then Jennifer answers, hey, this is Jennifer with so-and-so. How can I help you? And they'll be like, whoa, this is different than just going to search and getting a generic temp at landing page with stock photos from the other guy. This is, the ad said, Jennifer, this is a real business. Do you like that level of throw something crazy unique at it?
I like that. Yeah. The fact is that if you're in an industry that has a lot of competitors, all it takes is a couple competitors to do kind of the same thing, and they all look uniform. They all look vanilla, boring. Show me something different. And yeah,
You'll see something different in that organic first listing. So if everything's the same, people just might glaze over it and go, well, I don't want just an advertiser. But if you have something that looks organic level worthy of being an organic listing, because it's so unique, people will go, oh, this showed up in Google. Like this must be what I should click on. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Love it.
So we talked about a lot about headlines. Let's talk about responsive ad descriptions. Chris, I wrote down no pressure on these. Like, just do what makes you happy. I mean, are you thinking these through at like a super deep level, like we think about headlines, or are you just trying to get some good kind of unique to your business that you're advertising for headlines in there and fill up the space?
I mean, from the beginning, I start with a guess. So there's definitely no pressure. I start with what I think's going to work, and then knowing that when I push this into the machine, I'm not going to know what it's going to come out looking like. So it starts with a guess. And then a week, 2 weeks, a couple months later, then I can analyze that. So there really is no pressure. There's no pressure at all for me to look at, is this the best headline that I can possibly write now? No, because I need data before I can analyze that. Just like if we didn't have responsive search ads, the same thing would be true. So if you're worried about writing the perfect ad, stop it, because you're going to be able to make that decision over time. It's a process. It's not an instant.
The one thing I'm reminding myself, Chris, all the time with those responsive search ad descriptions, there's 4 of them. They're 90 characters, if memory serves. I try to remind myself to do something totally different with at least a couple of them. Like, don't just copy and paste the first one to the second one and then change like the last little call to action at the end.
Right.
Like, we've all been there, but still do something totally different, like a quote from a customer's testimonial, maybe as something different versus like information about the business in another one. Like, you can do totally different stuff. And why do totally different stuff? Because it's not up to you anymore. It's up to Google. They're going to take those responsive search ad headlines, descriptions, mix them all together, mix them to different people, different searches that they do, and see what works. And you want to feed it a bunch of different stuff. So it's a great chance to just relax. There's no pressure. Do something totally different with your descriptions. But because there are so many descriptions there, you get a chance to put those search terms and put those keywords in there in different spots again if you want to. Finally, let's talk about our last kind of topic of the basics here. Let's talk about the downside of pinning responsive search ads. Pinning is when you look at those headlines, look at the descriptions. They have a little pin. You click it, you can pin different headlines, different descriptions, and different positions. I never pin. You'll never pin me in a wrestling match. I'll never pin a responsive search ad ever, unless the client says something has to show in the ad, and then we'll pin it, because that's the way you do it. That's what pinning is for. But that's the only valid reason to pin. Outside of having to show copy in the ad always, I would never pin. Chris, there's a downside to pinning. Do you agree? And then what's that downside?
I absolutely agree. I'm 100% with you. I am a big talker. In no way, I mean, I'm going to bow up. No way, I'm not going to pin. But then the only time I have to is like if there's some kind of, you have to say this in the ad because this is a special, this is a summer special they're doing for the next 6 weeks. And, we have to include this because this is the primary kick that's making sure people come to the site and do that. Other than that, no way you're going to get me to pin. I absolutely think there's a downside. I used to say test it, set up one ad that's pinned and another ad that's not pinned, but honestly, I don't even do that anymore. If I'm interested,
because it's fake. You're not. How are you in control of that test? Please tell me. Sure, you can run a pinned ad versus an unpinned ad, which I've talked about in the past, but at the same time, you don't know how many impressions you're missing on that pinned ad.
Yeah, I don't know what it's doing. I can't really tell. And plus, you're never going to get, I don't think I've ever gotten an excellent or strong or whatever the top rating is on ad strength with a pinned ad. Even if you pin all 15 in different combinations and stuff like that, I don't think I've ever gotten.
Well,
The,
straight from their documentation, pinning isn't recommended for most
well, there
advertisers
you go.
because it reduces the overall number of asset combinations that can be shown and
Yeah.
matched to a potential customer search, which means to me, the way I interpret that is if you're going to reduce the overall number of combinations they can try, you're going to reduce the searches that you can show up on, and you're going to reduce the people that you can show up to. Thus, you're going to reduce your impressions and overall conversions. So,
Yeah.
unless you have a real reason you have to do it, don't do it. That's kind of our
Yeah.
approach.
Yeah. Absolutely. 100% agree there.
All right, Chris, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to kiss and make up, and then we're going to get back after the break with some very advanced responsive search ad kind of thoughts and theories that we have.
Okay. Welcome back. We are almost to an exciting point of the show. Be sure and stick around for my live demo of the Opteo RSA Writer tool. This is brand new. This is something you can utilize with the same amazing price of $0. Stick around for that. If you don't know how to take advantage of the offer, it is opteo.com/PSP.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So let's talk about ad strength. And I just want to say this episode has me very inspired about responsive search ads. And I just thought of something I've never thought of before, but you can pull a reset cord with your Google Ads campaign if you need to. Because if you find yourself in a spot where you have all the right keywords, you're bidding the way you want to bid, you've double checked all your settings, you're getting good results, but you're not getting great results, or you're not getting as good of results as you think are possible, or that you've seen with similar advertisers or seen in the past, why don't you pull a reset here, throw in a brand new responsive search ad, and see what that does over the next 30 days to your campaign? Because what I'm getting at, Chris, is they're so powerful when done correctly, but it's also easy to forget what's going on with them, that it should be looked at as like a core driver of success or lack of success in a campaign, just as strong as the keywords you select, the settings you have, not in the sense of like, well, yeah, if you have horrible keywords, you're never going to have good results. You can have a not so great ad and still have really good results. But in terms of like just the impact on the campaign, once things are past that level of a good, decent campaign, they can really make a difference. Are you feeling that level of inspiration? Isn't it? It's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for getting it right, and even though it's a different method than it used to be, it's still the same creative energy. It's the same kind of process of test, try this, and see how it works. We're working with a different engine, but it's the same system that we've always had. And yeah, you cannot let yourself burn out on this. Don't get frustrated and just assume that it's not important. It is critically important, and to the point, like you said, it could be to the complete detriment of your entire success of the campaign.
Yeah, we've also done some like timeline episodes, like what do you do in week 1? What do you do in month 1? What do you do 6 months in?
Yeah.
I think like the 3-month point or the 6-month point would be a great time to just throw in another responsive search ad that's like, it doesn't even have to be different. Just don't look at the first one when you make the second one and see if that opens things up. But let's talk about ad strength. So straight up, Chris, do you focus on ad strength score when you're creating a responsive search ad?
Yes.
That's different than what you've said in the past. That's different than what I've said in the past. And I agree with you. I've changed as well. Tell me why.
Yeah, because I know that there's a difference in ad strength. It has to do with just, I'm not going to go so far as to say that it makes a difference in your conversions, but conversions don't happen without impressions, and clicks don't happen without impressions. So down the line, yes, it has to do with conversions, but in the short run, it just has to do with the fact of whether your ad's going to be shown or not. So yes, ad strength matters. You should pay attention to it. It does not mean that I get the top absolute highest ad strength every time, but I get as far as I possibly can within the range of creativity that I can come up with for headlines.
Yeah, and it's also like to the extent that your ad is shown. shown over time. So straight from Google's documentation, they say, um, they say it's recommended to have one responsive search ad per ad group with at least a good or excellent. So at least good or an excellent strength as opposed to poor. So they want at least one ad. Of course, there's a limit of 3 responsive search ads per ad group. They also say that strength rating does not influence the serving eligibility. Instead, the ad strength rating identifies opportunities to improve your ads to optimize their performance. That's a riddle. That is a riddle. That is not straight up like words that we can say this means exactly this and that. That is very theoretical stuff, but let's break it down. First of all, they recommend you have at least one responsive search ad with at least a good or an excellent score.
Okay.
So they're saying it's recommended.
Sure.
And they're saying the strength rating doesn't influence its serving eligibility.
Okay.
To me, what that means, knowing what I know about responsive search ads, that means, yeah, your ad is approved. Your ad can show during these times when you run. It's running on keywords that are not low search volume. If you bid it the right amount, and yeah, if it's approved, you're eligible to show.
Eligibility
doesn't mean much.
Eligibility means eligible.
It means you're not disapproved.
Right. It means, because I have plenty of eligible keywords that get no impressions. They're eligible, but they get no impressions.
So that's all that means. That's all the way we take it as they're saying it. Like that's all it means to us is that you're eligible. You can show.
Sure.
And then they say instead the ad strength rating identifies opportunities to improve your ads to optimize their performance. We can't define what optimize their performance is, but to me, that means get your ad to show and show more.
Yeah. Because
and do what everybody involved wants it to do. Google wants it to be able to show more often so they make more money. You want it to be to show more often on the right searches with the right people so you get leads and make more money.
Yeah.
But they're not going to show a bad ad when other people have better ads.
There you go.
So that's what I think that means. And so, yeah, to me, just like I agree with you, ad strength is important. And we focus on it. And I don't think you want to have just one ad that has a poor rating on it. Because I think you can be getting better results, whether you turn that ad into a good or excellent ad, or you add a second ad that is good or excellent. So that's like very important. And again, it's about showing more is why it's important.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this next advanced topic here, Chris. The secret to responsive search ads.
There's a secret?
The secret is that it's about click-through rate, just like it used to be. This is my secret.
Okay.
It's about click-through rate, but it's not just click-through rate anymore. It's about showing more often, more impressions, because more impressions equal more conversions. And a great responsive search ad unlocks more impressions. That's the secret. And this is, again, straight from Google's responsive, straight from Google's documentation. They say evaluate the success of your ads based on incremental impressions, clicks, and conversions your ad groups and campaigns receive. So there's that language, incremental volume. And they say why? They say responsive search ads help you qualify for more auctions. So ad level performance and metrics like click-through rate and conversion rate may not paint a full picture of your performance. Chris, we get on here, we fight, we share our theories, we share our experience, and that experience and theories, they're valued by each other. We value each other's opinions and experience. The audience values it, but we're not just going off on a whim here. Like we look at the documentation, we look at what they say and how that lines up with what we see in reality. So again, I just want to read this and get your reaction here, Chris, because I think you find this very interesting.
Yeah.
Responsive search ads help you qualify for more auctions. So ad level performance and metrics like click-through rate and conversion rate may not paint a full picture of your performance. Chris, we've done debates on what's the more important metric for ads, click-through rate or conversion rate. Little did we know with responsive search ads, that's not even the full picture here. React to that documentation from Google.
Yeah, I mean, my that whole debate, my push, and I may have even won you over, is that click-through rate was the determining factor of success. You should not look at conversion rate. You should look at click-through rate when determining the better ad to use. And Google's saying, move over conversion rate, move over click-through rate. No, there's other things. It's just about more auctions. And we have nothing to say about this anymore. We can't see itemized click-through rate at each ad level. We now have to just optimize for what the system optimizes for, which is just more auctions, more volume, showing up, getting impressions on the things that we want. So that whole debate, that whole discussion, there is no optimization anymore about click-through rate because we don't have an itemized granular level of that to make those decisions. It's you can be sad about it or upset.
Did this
click through
rate? Meaning, like this? Did this headline help me improve click through rate versus that headline?
Right.
Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Now you can make bigger scope ideas about the click through rate in this ad group is lower than this one, but Google's cautioning that hey, don't you don't really want to make linear decisions like that anymore because you don't have a linear path between a search term and an ad headline. It's not like that anymore.
It's very messy, but it's also, if you understand the way everything kind of works together, it is a cool thing because you're just putting a bunch of inputs into the system,
yes,
and you're seeing how this system reacts to you. And I guess like the big takeaway is that like you have your click-through rate data that you see right in your face. You have your conversion rate data on the ad you see right in your face. But there's something else going on, which is how often your ad can show and on how many auctions, meaning the searches that are done and the people doing those searches, how many more could it be showing on when it's a great ad?
Yeah.
And I would say that's based right now on feel, like kind of seeing the difference between one ad and another. But I think if we really drill down on it, there's something between like click share, impression share, lost to ad rank. There's probably some way to back into, could I be, or did this ad get me to show up more often? But we'll close here, Chris, before we get into your demo, with the second secret of responsive search ads. Great ad group structure leads to great responsive search ads, which leads to more auctions and more people, which leads to more conversions. So the secret of a great responsive search ad, the secret of cracking open your Google Ads campaign to get more conversions, because more auctions, more people, more search terms, it comes from the ad group structure. Because when you have clean but still very simple ad group structure,
yes,
your ads can make sense to those keywords.
They like we said, bringing this,
but you don't lock it down too much. Yeah, talk about this.
Bringing it full circle. Lay it out like this: if your search terms don't match the tone or even the ad copy in your headlines, then you're doing something wrong. Either you're writing bad headlines, or you have, as Jason said, you're missing the other side of the secret is you're choosing too broad of ad groups. You're not topically assigning ad groups based on type or value, which is my theory on how you should choose ad groups: type and value. And that's it. I completely agree. That could absolutely be the problem that's leading to the symptom of poor rated ad strength, poor performing responsive search ads.
Yeah, it all comes back to that structure, and that's why that structure is so important.
Absolutely.
And I just love that when you're making that ad, Chris, you see, be unique, use these keywords. Well, if you have too many parts of the funnel, too many kinds of services in one ad group, it's hard to get all of that into one ad and make it make sense and please the system. At the same time, you and I both know doing too few keywords per ad group and splitting up the same service, the same part of the funnel into different ad groups doesn't make sense anymore, just based on the way everything runs. So that clean, simple as possible ad group structure can really help you just by default make amazing responsive search ads. And when you do that, more auctions because of more search terms that you can show up on, because and more people doing those searches that you can show up to. And that's the second secret of responsive search ads, Chris. Well, speaking of more, we have your demo coming up. Everyone check out YouTube, and Chris is going to take us through the Opteo responsive ad writer tool, and you can watch him make responsive search ads with Opteo's tool.
Lightning fast.
Right now?
It's lightning fast. Check it out. Okay, so here we are in the Opteo RSA writer tool. This is a whole part of the Opteo suite of tools that they have created. This is a new one that they've been building out. Pretty excited to show it. I've had a preview behind the scenes. I've seen how it works, and wanted to give a demo here. This is really neat. So right away, let's talk about when you write ad copy in Google, when you write ads. The biggest issues that I find is the speed and efficiency of getting it done the way that Google, kind of slows you down with having to open, one individual ad, and you can't see what the other ads look like. And if you didn't take a screenshot of the other ads, you have no idea what your headlines were. You have to go back and look at them. Major headache. This solves that. The second thing that it solves is the ability to see metrics and data all in one screen. So let's conquer that first. Let's talk about how it does that first. One of the first things that's unique about this is Opteo offers this ad score ability, and this is a metric that you can actually see right on the screen. It's a unique ad score is not something that exists in Google Ads. Opteo kind of made it up, but it uses 4 factors that determine a ad score for a particular campaign. Is there an ad in there that has at least one conversion? Is there an ad in there that has an above average CTR? Is there an ad that's been updated within the last 90 days? Is there an ad with at least 8 headlines? So you can see this at the campaign level, but more importantly, you can see it at the ad group level. So if you have a whole bunch of ad groups pulled up here, you'd be able to see, okay, this ad has had no conversions, or it doesn't have enough headlines, or some reason why it would need attention. And that's part of the reason Opteo is so nice, is because it gives you the tools, gives you the layout to be able to see these things without keeping a spreadsheet or massive notes to kind of watch these kind of things. So what we do is click into the ad group in order to create an ad. But next, I want to hit on the next important thing that I talked about that Opteo does that Google Ads user interface does poorly, in my opinion, is give you data and metrics just on the screen. You may be able to see it right here at the top right. There's 3 dots in this little drop down. Okay, I can click that, and the first thing I'm going to skip. I'm going to come back to this first thing because it's really neat, and I don't want to get into it yet. What is particularly important about the metrics that we see here is that I can see how many of the ad groups have just 1 ad in them, how many have 2, and how many have 3. So if you have certain ad groups that have a certain volume of ads, how much do you spend on those? What's the average CTR? What's the what's the metrics on each one of these that you can check and make sure it looks like there's a couple clicks that I'm getting that only has 1 responsive search ad. Maybe I want to try 2. Maybe I want to try adding 3. It's right here on the screen. No other segmentation in Google Ads has this. There is not a way to see this. This is automatically generated right here in Opteo. Next, again, a completely new metric. How many of my ads have 3 to 5 headlines? So minimum is 3. And if you add a couple more, you have 5. So you can see how many of those. What's the average click-through rate? How many of the ads that are 6 to 10 headlines? What is that click-through rate? And then how many have 11 or more headlines? What's the click-through rate there? You can kind of start to judge. Wow, look at the difference here. For this one ad that's 6 to 10 headlines, it has a higher click-through rate than anything else. Something to that. Maybe there's some value there. Could be. And you would never know that. There is no way to see this in Google Ads directly. Another really cool example, exact same kind of thing. your ads that only have 2 descriptions, 3 descriptions, and 4 descriptions. That's another metric shown right here on the screen. And I can see what's the click-through rate, what's the cost, what's the number of clicks that's been received. Okay. Next, we get into RSAs with the number of paths. And then last, we get into pinning. This is something we talk about all the time. Pinning. Some pinning, just a little bit of pinning, or everything is pinned, or no pins at all. I mean, it's always a big debate about should you pin your ads, should you not pin your ads. You know, you could go in and create these labels in Google Ads UI and then do a custom dimensions report. And, you know, I mean, it's such a headache. It takes so much time. That's what Opteo is here for, is to save time. There is a way to see what are my metrics on ads that have no pin, ads that have some pinning, and ads that are completely pinned. Every single headline is pinned. So really interesting. These are metrics that don't exist anywhere else. That's just a preview. We have not even written an ad yet. Let's write an ad. So if I click into the ad group, I am able to see a screen here for any drafts, anything that has been created in the past. So I can quickly open that up and continue that draft. But let's start from scratch. But be aware, there is a draft system right here in Google Ads, the Opteo version of Google Ads. It does not exist in Google Ads. There is no draft ad. If you stop an ad and cancel it, it's gone. You've now lost that ability, which is, I mean, that can be really annoying. You have to go back. I don't remember what headlines I used. I was so creative, and then, my internet went out, or my power went out, or accidentally closed my laptop and it ran out of battery, and I've lost it. This is a way to be able to save these drafts. That's not what we were here to talk about. I just think that's really neat. Anybody who's been in my position where you lose the work that you've done. Again, I want to point out, here's this wonderful layout again of the metrics, but let's jump into creating our first responsive search ad. So all I have to do is open up, create new responsive search ad, and the first thing you should notice is that this is wall to wall. This is a full page of ad writing glory. If you use Google Ads UI any amount of time, you're working in these small little windows. It shrinks everything down into a smaller size. This is responsive. If you make your window really big, you can see the whole thing. You're not cramped down a small little thing. That's a small thing that I really enjoy, but it's big to me. It's big to me because working in that in this full page is just such a nice advantage. Let me show you how long it takes to create a new responsive search ad. So right here, there's the little button here. I click that. See that I'm done. I just finished. I could stop the demo right here, and that is literally how fast you can copy an ad from one of your existing ad groups and just paste it in. It's automatically done. And then you say, okay, Chris, Google UI can create a draft using my existing. And I say, okay, fine. You got me there. You're right. All right. So let me show you something even better. So let's start over then. Let's say you want to create a new ad. You want to create something that isn't a duplicate of everything else. All right, let's do that. So first thing I can do is I can scroll down and find some critical information that I might want to explore on this. Okay, so on any of these previews that you see, I can click and copy any of the headlines. All of this is something that can be copied and pasted. But even more important, I can scroll down further, and there's these campaign search terms that you can see right here. So I can check my search terms. We'll talk more about that in a second. And then there's the campaign library. This is where all of your work that you've done in the past, you can quickly copy and paste. So if I want to start right in my ad, I just click that, go to headline 1, paste. I click this one, go to headline 2, paste. I click this one, go to headline 3, paste. Boom, boom, boom. I just wrote 3 headlines. That's minimum to be able to run a responsive search ad. That's all it takes. Okay, but I can keep going and I can add some more. But let's hold off. Let's say I just want to use those top headlines, and then I want to write a couple descriptions. Okay, so let's copy, paste, done. I just wrote an ad choosing some of the other ones. So it's not a complete duplicate. I'm using some custom choices. I want to put this here and this here. I don't want to put this here. I can do that so that I've created basically a duplicate that is somehow customized. Let's go a step further. Let's say that you want some data. Let's say you want to look at some of the headlines that have been used over and over again. This is where I can go in and click the three dots. Up again, the wonderful three dots. I reference it a lot because I love this little tool. Now I have a top-down sorted list of what the top performing headlines are. I can click gluten-free pancake mix, scroll over to one of my headlines, and just paste that in. I know that that is already one that is one of my top performing headlines. Okay, so now I at least have grabbed that. Then I click this again. Let's see, something else that looks really good. Let's do right there. So let's grab this one, paste that in. Just like that, I'm able to grab certain ones based on the volume, based on the success of the headline in other ad groups right here in this wonderful little window. I have not had to leave my window. I've not had to leave anything, save it, nothing, that kind of stuff. It's all right here. I can scroll through and see all of it. This is critical. This is the kind of thing that, you use Google Ads Editor for, but you don't get this kind of simplicity of navigation and speed of copy paste and to be able to go through different things. This is the best mashup between Google Ads Editor and a browser-friendly interface. Opteo.com has figured it out. I think it's really great. So let's go a few more examples about some of the things that you can do. Okay, so right here at the top, now that I've written a few of the headlines, I can see all of my different, mix of different headlines, and I can scroll through them to be able to possibly take a screenshot and show my client, show my boss what that looks like. Just a nice little prep to kind of make sure, did I miss anything? Did I forget anything? Is there something I misspelled? Just kind of a gut check on, on that overall. I can swap between mobile and desktop. Wonderful. Love it. Then scrolling a little further, here's a gut check on what are the competitors saying? There could be a list of multiple competitors I could flip through. There's only one example here, but this is a great way to make sure that you're not just, missing the field completely on what's the tone of the other competitors. What are they saying? Are you copying basically everything else, everything everyone else is saying? Maybe you need something more unique. And this is a great way to check that. And then we change to this little crazy tool here, the AI generated asset. So, I'm getting to the end of my creativity here. I don't know what to choose. I don't know what to pick. I can go in and scroll through this AI generated content. And what it does is grab however AI works. I'm not going to pretend I know how that works, but it grabs into the AI thing and comes up with these unique headlines that are written not by humans. And you say, well, I don't want something not written by a human. The advantage of looking at this AI content is that it stretches the boundaries of what you would typically consider. AI is going to be able to pick things that, aren't off the top of your head. There aren't going to be, the typical kind of things that every advertiser is going to repeat. This is going to be unique content that I can just, again, copy and paste. Boom. Just like that. There's some really funny stuff in here. If you're watching the video, you're scrolling through, treat yourself, what a funny little headline there. Pancakes for all, pancake pleasure. These are that's kind of weird, but I don't know. It's a responsive search ad. Throw it in there. Let Google sort it out. Let Google figure out what the best responsive headlines are going to be. The same thing is true for descriptions. I can go in and add some descriptions, which anyone who writes descriptions know this is this is some of the harder ones to write because you have a lot more characters. You need to be unique. You can't just say the same thing you said in your headlines. So it's going to be important that you have something, a unique idea. This is a great way to write some unique ideas. See something, just get outside the box of your head and try and come up with something different. This is beautiful. I love it. So I'll get off of that. Let's talk now about another unique aspect of this whole tool: campaign search terms. The reason you would want to see search terms when you're writing ad copy is because when someone does a search on Google, they're not using your keyword necessarily. They're typing a search term. They're typing the words they want to type. And because of that, now you need to make sure that your headlines match what they actually type, which is matching the search term to the headline. So this is important, and there is no tool in Google Ads anywhere that has this kind of check between the most granular aspect of a search campaign and your ad copy, your headlines, and your responsive search ads. I mean, this is wonderful. So great way. And again, I can just click this and paste it. Everything you see on the screen, you can just click and paste. No highlighting, none of that kind of stuff. Then we get into just a list of all the different headlines, which I've already gone through. You can copy and paste any of these. Then last we have the search engine result page. So just a great way to kind of check what's showing up when my most common search term is popping up. Is my ad going to fit here? Is this the kind of tone that I want to pick for this kind of search result page? Critically important. So this is great stuff. This is a massive way for you to be able to build an ad, check all your metrics, check all the way down to your search terms, and then when you're done, you just hit preview responsive search ad, and it will generate a page for us. What a perfect example. I forgot to add the final URL, and it wasn't letting me go past. Boom, just like that. Okay, so it wasn't letting me go past. The tool knew I had a problem, and it fixed it for me. So there we go. So I preview, and now I can scroll through, see different things. There's confirmation page to show everything that I've written, and then I can push the RSA live. Okay, and it takes it and publishes it straight to the campaign, the ad group that you wanted. It's perfect. It's so much faster. So let's go through real quick the kinds of things that you get with this tool. And this all comes with Opteo. There's no extra charge. There's no extra, subscription fee for anything like this. This is all part of the Opteo suite that they're building and growing constantly. There's new stuff coming out, really neat stuff. You can create new or copy existing ad copy. You can use the AI generated ideas. You can see competitor ads. You get this wonderful little ad strength tool to be able to do things. You can, sorry, I said ad strength. Opteo uses ad score in there. So that's important. So the ad score you can see, which tells you a little bit more about your ad copy than typically you would see. You can, while you're doing all this, you can see, what your metrics are at the ad level. How many RSAs do you have? How many headlines are in those RSAs? How many descriptions? Are you using pins? How are those pins performing compared to unpinned things? Really great. Then you can see your preview. You can copy any of the things you have anywhere else. It's just click and paste and then publish. Guys, this is great stuff. Well done, Opteo. I love it. I think it helps everyday managers get more done in Google Ads, and really, really glad to see it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next time.